A local store owner fights for her life at gunpoint.
He turned around, started to come at me, and I shot him.
She tells her story to Fox 45 News after a Canton employee is killed after an armed robbery. A new bill adding more transparency to how your tax dollars are spent is gaining support. We asked the mayor if he will back the bill. A report says over $500,000 for getting your kids to school was misspent. We question how city schools let this go unnoticed for so long.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
Breaking news right now. Baltimore police are on the scene of a shooting in East Baltimore. This is on East Madison Street, a block away from Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital. Now, police have confirmed to our newsroom that a man was shot in the leg. He's expected to survive, and there's no word of a suspect at this time. This is the third shooting in the city today. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Baltimore's crime crisis has taken another life, and this time someone who was just doing his job. This
is Fabian Sanchez Gonzalez. He's the 23-year-old employee at the T-Mobile store in Canton. Police say he was shot on Sunday during a robbery. His family confirmed to Fox 45 News he died from his injuries. As a family mourns, Gonzalez's death is forcing a Baltimore business owner to share her near-death experience during a robbery. She is hoping her story is heard by city leaders.
The 22-year-old is dead because the city is uncontrollable.
Team coverage tonight of the city's crime crisis. Mackenzie Frost and Maxine Stryker are pushing for accountability and transparency from elected leaders.
First, Alexa Ashwell has an exclusive interview with another person impacted by the city's crime crisis. Alexa.
Yes, Kai, Mary, Fabian's death especially troubling to a Baltimore business owner who says her shop was robbed at gunpoint twice just in the past 6 months.
In Highlandtown, here on Eastern Avenue, Jody Rossoff sits inside Doc's smoke shop.
1999, 30 off.
The business she's owned for more than 40 years.
Anything else?
Her mind on the 23-year-old T-Mobile employee, Fabian Sanchez Gonzalez, who police say has now died after he was shot by an armed robber inside the cell phone store in Canton this past Sunday.
2500 Boston, T-Mobile, mail shop inside of location.
A situation she found herself in just weeks ago.
I can't handle that. I'm sad for him. I'm sad for his family. The PTSD that it's bringing back to me. I can't. It's crazy.
Back in March, Rossoff's shop was robbed at gunpoint. It was the second time in 6 months. This time, the owner finding herself in a fight for her life, and it was all captured on surveillance.
My heart is beating just thinking of it.
Rossoff says a man walked into the store posing as a customer, when suddenly he pulled out a gun and demanded cash and merchandise.
About 5 minutes into the conversation, he pulls out a gun and he says, "I'll take everything." I opened the register. I pressed the hold-up alarm. I went behind the counter, but I wasn't going to bend down with a man with a gun, you know? So I said to him, "If you want it, you take it." He came after me and we got into a scuffle. I go back to the counter here, grabbed my gun, turned around, he turned around, started to come at me, and I shot him.
Police arrested the suspect and later identified him as Jerome Owens, a convicted felon with a criminal history that spans more than 25 years, with previous arrests for robbery, theft, burglary, and drug distribution. Rossoff frustrated by the level of crime in Baltimore, but also the handling of criminals.
This is our second armed robbery in 6 months. We have been here in the city for 44 years. For 44 years, we have paid property taxes, we have paid retail sales taxes, we have employed people. Shame on the mayor, shame on, the judges and the prosecutors and our former state's attorney for letting this happen to Baltimore City.
Now, all merchandise must go. Rossoff has made the decision after more than 40 years in business here in Baltimore.
But you've been good through the years.
To close her shop.
Nobody wants to be afraid to come into their business. The 22-year-old is dead because the city is uncontrollable. Because the people, these criminals who are nothing but cowards, think that they have the right to steal from people and harm them. And they're still out there.
And back to the T-Mobile case, the police commissioner speaking briefly yesterday to the investigation, saying they are gathering evidence and talking with any witnesses. We know there were customers inside the store at the time of that armed robbery. No suspect information has been provided. Reporting live outside police headquarters, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
A new Goucher poll reveals reducing crime is the most important thing Marylanders are hoping Governor Wes Moore will address. But lawmakers this year have ended their legislative session doing, according to many, little to crack down on crime. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker joins us live with a closer look at the poll results. Maxine?
Well, Kai, of the 800 Maryland residents who were surveyed, 83% said that reducing crime was the most important thing to them. Now, during the session, as you mentioned, lawmakers, some say, largely failed to address the issue, especially when it comes to juvenile crime, which has been a major issue here in Baltimore City. So far this year, there have been 10 juveniles killed. Now, what Governor Moore had to say just days ago when asked what he says to Republicans who say he hasn't been tough enough on crime. Take a listen.
I'd say for the past 8 years, we have watched a doubling of the homicide rate in the state of Maryland. So their plans weren't working. For the past 8 years, we have watched a doubling of the rate of non-fatal shootings in the state of Maryland. Whatever was being done before, that wasn't working because we've continued to watch our communities feel less safe. So for people who say that we're not moving aggressively enough, A, I think they're not paying attention to what we're actually doing, and B, it's interesting that they're not acknowledging, and I'm asking where they were for the past 8 years.
But when asked where he fell short in the past 100 days, he said that it was when it came to addressing safety and crime, and that he'll be sure to do so before the next session. Another key number from that Goucher poll, 83% also said that improving public schools was very important to them. In the studio, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Maxine, thank you. The latest now on Councilman Yitzi Schleifer's effort to better track how your tax dollars are being spent. His bill calls for more transparency and accountability in the grant-making process. Right now, once money is given to nonprofits, it is difficult to see how that money is spent.
We've seen just in the past year, hundreds of millions of dollars going out the door through the ARPA funding and other funding, and it's important to know where that money is going, what those organizations are doing. And this bill is going to help improve that. This will hopefully answer a lot of questions that people have as to where the money's going and are we getting a good return on those investments.
Well, let's bring in Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost, who has been digging into this issue. Mackenzie, do you think this proposal will help shed some light on how an organization, Safe Streets, that you've been investigating, spends money?
Potentially, Mary. We've been asking to see how these nonprofits or community-based organizations spend the money that they get from the city once it's already allocated. And we've been asking these questions for several years, hitting multiple roadblocks. And when we talk to transparency experts, taxpayer watchdogs like David Williams, he says when it comes to learning where that money is being spent, transparency really is king.
People want this program to work. They want the streets to be safer, but they just don't know where the money is going. A lot of money is being spent, and a lot of lives are at risk. Taxpayers and the citizens want to know that the money that's being spent is being spent wisely.
Mackenzie, you were at the meeting last night. What type of support does the bill currently have, and is Mayor Scott saying anything about it?
Well, we know right now that City Council President Nick Mosby is signed on as a co-sponsor to the legislation, along with council members Zeke Cohen and Danielle McCrae. And after that council meeting last night, we were also able to catch up with council members Antonio Glover and Mark Conway, who both say that they too support this legislation, pushing for more transparency in this arena. Earlier this afternoon, we sent questions to the other members of the City Council asking where they stand on this issue. We're still waiting to get some answers. But yesterday, Mayor Brandon Scott was also asked about this bill specifically, and he did not really take a stance.
I'm always someone that talks about transparency, but when you think about our grants, right, and the grants that the city gets, I don't think that anybody's gonna argue that, especially when we get them from the federal and the state government that has a lot of requirements, and that information is out there for the public to see. We're always going to be pushing that out there. We'll see and talk with the council member about the piece of legislation as it goes through the process.
Now, the bill has been referred to the Rules and Legislative Oversight Committee for further debate, but it's unclear when this bill itself will have a hearing. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. That brings us to our question of the day. Should your council members support the transparency bill? So far, 80% of those who responded say yes. To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com.
Making headlines, there's a guilty plea in the shooting death of an MTA driver in 2021. 49-year-old Frankie Duckett was shot and killed in January of 2021 in East Baltimore. During the trial, prosecutors showed video of the suspect, Marquise Poteet, firing through the window of the bus. The 35-year-old received life in prison with all but 60 years suspended. Duckett was a husband and father of 4. Fox 45 News spoke with his family exclusively in 2021 after he was killed.
I lost someone that's dear to my heart, and I can't do anything about it, so I can't fix it. That's what I like to do. I like to fix it. I can't fix this. I can't bring him back.
Well, the family told us that it appears the two had an argument over a mask before that shooting took place. Poteet was arrested in South Carolina in 2021 following a months-long manhunt. Be the first to know about breaking news by signing up for News on the Go. Go to foxbaltimore.com and click on Mobile Alert Sign Up under the Station tab.
Well, sitting in traffic is costing Maryland billions of dollars. We have a new state report on Maryland's congested roads coming up.
This is a world-class event happening right here in Baltimore.
Baltimore will again host cyclists from across the world for a second year of the Maryland Cycling Classic. What to expect coming up.
Lots of excitement, and it should warm your heart on this gloomy Tuesday. 98% of students at one Baltimore City high school headed to college. Their incredible achievements coming up.
And we continue with, guess what? More gloomy skies, temperatures in the 50s, clouds, maybe even a shower, but sunshine and 70s are on the way, and soon. I'll let you know when they get here in my Weather Authority forecast.
It is a struggle Maryland commuters know all too well, staring at brake lights on the highway.
That's right. In fact, a new report today from a transportation research group is putting a price tag on Maryland's congested roadways.
Amy Simpson joins us live with more on this today. Amy?
Yeah, so this report says that Maryland's roads and highways are costing drivers both time and money. This report done by a group named TRIP, which is a national transportation research nonprofit group based in Washington, D.C. The group says that last year in 2022, when you add up the cost of delays, wasted fuel, and emissions, Maryland's congested roads came at a cost of $5.8 billion. Yes, billion with a B, or up to about $2,465 per driver. But take a listen to the impact on drivers here in the greater Baltimore area.
In the Baltimore urban area, TRIP estimates the traffic congestion costs the average motorist to spend an additional 59 hours stuck in traffic annually and burning an additional 22 gallons of fuel. And the impact or the cost of that loss of time and fuel is $1,371.
Now, the report also breaks down the most congested portions of Maryland's highways. It'll come as no surprise that the biggest backups during the morning and evening commutes around Maryland, they happen on both of the beltways, both 495 and 695.
Well, Amy, the pandemic certainly changed the way many people work and commute. What kind of impact did COVID have on traffic congestions in the region? Maybe there is a little bit of a silver lining here.
Yeah, it sounds like over the last 2 years there was a little bit of a silver lining. We know so many people were working from home, working remotely when they could. The report found that car travel here in Maryland dropped as much as 47% during the pandemic, but those numbers had already rebounded to within 5% of pre-pandemic levels as of last year. Reporting live tonight, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Well, the race for Maryland Senator Ben Cardin's seat has started. He announced just yesterday he won't seek re-election. Montgomery County Councilman Will Jawando made his intentions clear. He announced his candidacy for the Senate seat through a video on Twitter. The 41-year-old from Silver Spring has been an at-large county council member since 2018. He previously worked as a Capitol Hill staffer in the Obama administration and has authored a book.
Well, looking ahead now, the nation's top-ranked professional road cycling event is returning to Baltimore.
The Maryland Cycling Classic happens again this September. The 124-mile race, that's right, 124 miles, starts in Baltimore County and finishes in Baltimore City. Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott and Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski unveiled the official jersey for this year's race. It's pretty cool. It will be held September 3rd for 4 days. Race officials expect to welcome cyclists from across the world to our region. Now, the race kicks off in Sparks and it ends at the Inner Harbor.
Rec and Parks, BPD, DOT, DPW, everybody plays a role in making sure that an event like this goes off without a hitch. And you hear me talk a lot about the renaissance that is happening in our city and how we're transforming Baltimore into a premier destination for world-class entertainment and sporting events. And it feels great to see the manifestation of our words and all of our hard work.
I'm so excited about the ways in which all of the partnerships that have come together to really promote and highlight what a gem we have between the start in Baltimore County all the way to the finish in downtown.
Well, Belgium racer Sepp van Mark won the inaugural race last year. High school seniors yesterday take part in College Decision Day.
They sure do. And one Baltimore high school has quite the achievement to celebrate. All right, let's tell you why these kids are so excited. These are seniors at Baltimore City College, and get this, the class of 2023 had an acceptance rate of 98%. We are told the students are going to around 100 colleges all across the nation and the world. Big congratulations to them.
So happy for them.
Yes,
Very good job.
And Kai, this is near and dear to your heart.
It is.
Because your oldest daughter is heading to college.
Gracie's heading to California, and I'm kind of this is kind of cool though for us, Jonathan, because Mary has a college senior and I've got a high school senior.
Yes.
He's graduating, hopefully going to medical school at some point, and then mine is going to college to start her career.
Yeah, big milestone.
Yes, right.
And then Jonathan has cute little boys.
I have an 8 and 10-year-old, so I'm still saving for that.
Save that money.
Let me just tell you, it's never enough.
Oh, great.
No.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
No.
Sorry to tell you.
Let's get right to the forecast here. And we're seeing some occasional spot showers all the way from Sykesville back to Frederick and Green Valley. Big surprise, right? We promised some gloomy weather, and here we go. We're getting it down Baltimore way. We've even got some sprinkles downtown. It's barely even enough to turn on your wipers, and up toward Elkton, there's also some rain that way. Let's go ahead and put it on the loop of the national radar. And whoa, this is only part and parcel of a monster, just kind of decaying weather maker. Even some winter storm warnings with this as it gets cold enough to snow in portions of mountainous West Virginia and even western Maryland. But this thing swirling and just really not moving very much. You see these yellow lines that are heading toward us, and usually I don't talk much about these. They're kind of confusing as to meteorologically what they are. But basically, what it means for us is disturbances coming in the upper atmosphere. What does that mean for you? Well, what it means is these little guys kind of spark the atmosphere up. They swing around this big stalled low pressure system, kind of like a carousel, if you will. And each time one of these comes in, we start rippling the atmosphere. We get those showers to pop in the afternoon. We get the breezy conditions. And here we go. This is going to be the setup. Look at this thing. Kind of the mother low, if you will, that's off to the north. It's just not going anywhere. So that's why we had the pattern yesterday. We got it today. And you know, we're going to have it again for tomorrow, finally releasing some grips here as we head towards the end of the week. Right now, 55 winds out of the west and northwest, about 10 to 15, and some gusts up to about 25 to 30. So not only is it showery, but it's gloomy and cool. Look at all the clouds, those temperatures in the 50s, feeling colder than that with that biting kind of gusty wind. Even some 30s. Look at that, where we have winter weather advisories right now up in Oakland and western Maryland. Around here, we're not going to have winter weather advisories and snow, but we are going to have some cool showers. Now, those diminish gradually overnight. The temperatures by early tomorrow morning, back to jacket weather. Actually, it probably never left. Probably had jackets all day today. Low to mid 40s to begin, and then notice into tomorrow afternoon, another round of potential showers. And even as we head into Thursday, another round of potential showers during the afternoon, but we'll reduce the rain chances a little bit, maybe to a 20-30% chance instead of a 40-50% chance like we see for tomorrow. But look at the temperatures, too. Although it's cool tomorrow, baby steps. Thursday, 65, near 70 on Friday, and there you go, well into the 70s. Paying the piper with some good weather. Saturday, Sunday, even into early next week. Could even go borderline 80 degrees by next Monday and Tuesday. Everybody outside.
Concerns about ethics casting a shadow over the Supreme Court. I'm Atra El-Nashar with why there's a constitutional hurdle that may get in the way of holding justices to a code of conduct.
TV writers on strike, and we're already seeing impacts to your late-night TV shows. And a local community college set to host a national lacrosse championship. Still ahead, why the tournament is such a big deal locally. Tonight, some calls for Supreme Court ethics reform after revelations of two justices accepting lavish gifts, trips, and real estate deals. Many say those posed a conflict of interest. But as national correspondent Atra El-Nashar reports, there are constitutional questions about whether a fix can come from Capitol Hill.
The notoriously private justices of the Supreme Court now in the spotlight, and for all the wrong reasons. New revelations of Justice Clarence Thomas's lavish gifts and trips from a GOP mega donor and a prominent law firm executive purchasing a property co-owned by Justice Neil Gorsuch. Ethics concerns aren't new or exclusive to one side. The late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg and former Justice Stephen Breyer were among those who disclosed trips subsidized by influential people. But none of this violates the Supreme Court's code of conduct because there isn't one. In a letter to Senate Judiciary Committee Democrats, Chief Justice John Roberts defends their record, saying they take guidance on ethics issues from sources like scholarly commentary and historical practice. What Roberts describes is more lax than the ethics rules all federal officials, from the president on down, have to follow. But those calling for reform are running into a constitutional quandary. Does the separation of powers give Congress the ability to legislate a formal code of conduct for the Supreme Court? University of Massachusetts Amherst law professor Paul Collins says there's a strong case that they do, as long as it doesn't pertain to their judicial duties.
It gets that authority from the necessary and proper clause, which basically gives Congress broad license to pass laws in the furtherance of the power that the government has, which includes the judicial power of the Supreme Court.
What's less clear, he says, is who would enforce it.
Because you can imagine the potential problem of a case challenging Congress's authority to pass a code of ethics to the Supreme Court that would presumably go to the Supreme Court.
According to Gallup, those who say they have a great deal or fair amount of trust and confidence in the judicial branch headed by the Supreme Court started plummeting from 69% in 2019 to 47% late last year. For a court that essentially relies on public respect to uphold its decisions, inaction on this issue could compromise its future. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar reporting.
Well, somebody behind the scenes knows who did it, knows why they did it, and when they did it.
Fox 45 News and our Project Baltimore team with relentless coverage of what some are calling a cover-up, why the state is shielding school test information from the public. And did more than $1 million meant for school transportation in Baltimore go to waste? The response from city schools. Baltimore City school officials are responding to the school system's taxi cab controversy uncovered in a recent Maryland Inspector General report.
That report claims a local cab company paid to take students to and from school and may have driven off with more than $500,000 of taxpayer money.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor joins us live from school headquarters with the very latest on this. Rebecca?
Well, according to the school system, they're aware of the issue and they've put safeguards in place to prevent something like this from happening again. However, it's still unclear how something like this happened in the first place. Take a look. The IG report claims from the 2018 to 2019 school year and the 2021 to 2022 school year, there were about 1,100 students and 3,900 cases when the student had not been in school, but the taxi company claimed that they were taken there. In total, racking up nearly $632,000 worth of controversial charges, a significant amount of money. Now, in response to the findings, the school system sent Fox 45 News a statement reading in part, quote, the discrepancies identified by the OIG were primarily concentrated in the earlier years of the review period and have been mitigated by city schools' efforts to increase oversight of transportation vendors in recent years. Now, I've since followed up this afternoon asking exactly what new oversight measures have been put in place and exactly how this was able to go on for so long. But as of News Time tonight, I've not heard back. Reporting live outside of school headquarters, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. And a new report says city officials have once again failed to properly monitor the city's teleworking employees. According to the Baltimore City Inspector General, for 8 months last year, an employee with the city was also working with city schools. That's against city policy. And according to the IG's investigation, the city wasn't aware of the dual role. That employee resigned from the city in October of last year, but not before making a combined $104,000. 2 years ago, the IG warned the city to take a hard look at its work-from-home policy to avoid incidents like this. The IG addressing the lack of action today.
We're beginning to find this as a pattern in the city that we, the Office of the Inspector General, is sometimes told that things have been corrected when in reality they haven't. So we're actually in the process right now of reviewing a lot of our prior cases and determining if indeed what they told us is correct. And we will be calling out anybody that gave us false information.
Before this incident, the IG found a DPW engineer working a second job during the same hours he was working for DPW. For this latest report, the IG is once again asking the city to address the loophole. The IG is also leaving any decisions on civil or criminal penalties up to the city.
More changes inside the mayor's office. There are reports Mayor Brandon Scott's chief of staff and spokesperson are no longer with his office. Now, his office has refused to speak with us about the changes. Dhruv Ignaraja addressed the news this morning.
When you have, again, one person shifting here and there, that's one thing. But to have so many major turnovers at the highest level, this is your cabinet. This is your leadership within City Hall. When those people are departing with such frequency, it just has to raise questions. And you want to see the mayor say, this is what's happening. One or two people moving to a great new job in another city, that's one thing. But for there to be so much turnover with such regularity, with no answers, I think that makes people worry.
There has been high turnover within the mayor's office. Mayor Scott's last chief of staff left last fall. His last communications director was asked to leave in January.
Who posted Maryland state test results online and why were they then removed and redacted?
That move made it harder for the public to see how schools are performing. As Project Baltimore's Chris Papps explains, no one is taking responsibility.
Do you still feel this is a cover-up?
This is absolutely a cover-up.
It's now been 2 weeks since Project Baltimore first spoke with Sean Kennedy, a visiting fellow at the Maryland Public Policy Institute. And in those 2 weeks, a lot has happened.
I see this as an unfolding scandal where the superintendent's going to have to resign. It's just a matter of when.
The latest development? The Maryland State Department of Education, under Superintendent Mohammed Chaudhry, has doubled down, again, blaming its web vendor for a mistake that allowed the public to see state test results before they could be further redacted.
It's a he said, she said, and unfortunately, The only people who are being left out are the parents and the taxpayers.
Here's the backstory. On April 20th, the Maryland State Department of Education posted this 3-page statement to its website. The statement was issued in response to Project Baltimore's investigation, exposing how MSDE changed the way it reports student test scores to the public, redacting much of the data. In the statement, MSDE blamed its web vendor, the Canton Group, for publishing embargoed data before it could be redacted to protect student privacy. MSDE's statement said, Mr. Pabst gained access to the embargoed data that was prematurely posted by the MSDE web vendor. But the Canton Group says that is not true. On Friday, the Canton Group sent this statement to FOX45. The statement claims MSDE has initial, ultimate, and total control over the posting of information, and an individual with MSDE, under the direction of supervisors at MSDE, published the information in question on January 19th, 2023, after a full approval process.
While somebody behind the scenes knows who did it, knows why they did it, and when they did it, but we don't have any of those answers, and then blaming each other doesn't resolve the questions of why it was done, when it was done, and who did it.
For nearly 20 years, the Canton Group has been the web vendor for the Maryland State Department of Education. But MSDE is not backing down from its allegation. Project Baltimore asked MSDE to respond to the Canton Group's claim that it was not at fault. We received this email. The department's original position and statements still hold true. Previous information that was released remains as stated. And when we took that response back to the Canton Group on Monday, it too doubled down, reiterating in a statement it has handled all data and approvals appropriately, and Canton does not have physical access to post information on the MSDE website. What this means is no one is taking responsibility for publishing what MSDE called embargoed data, but somebody put it online.
Mr. Chaudhary.
When we tried last week to speak with the state superintendent, Mohammed Chaudhary,
Removing test scores from the website,
he locked himself behind a door.
There was clearly an ulterior motive here, and we need to know what the answer was there.
It's vital, according to Kennedy, that taxpayers know the truth, because in January, when Project Baltimore downloaded the original state test scores from MSDE's website, we were able to report to the public that 23 Baltimore City schools and 7 Baltimore County schools had 0 students among those tested score proficient in math. But now, much of that data has been redacted. The state says it was done to protect student privacy, but some, including Kennedy, say the test results were replaced with asterisks to hide how poorly some schools are performing.
There is no way out of this situation other than Chaudhary leaving his post and doing so immediately. How do we ask students to be held accountable, teachers to be held accountable, when the leader of the state school system won't answer direct questions and take responsibility for his actions or the actions of his subordinates? It's ridiculous.
I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Well, Project Baltimore is waiting to hear from the president of the State Board of Education, Clarence Crawford. He told Fox 45 News he didn't know the data was being changed. Friday, Fox 45 sent both President Crawford and Governor Moore an email asking when they became aware the data was removed and redacted from its website. We also asked how they became aware. We are still waiting for their responses.
We are following some breaking news. The conviction of Adnan Syed will stand. You may remember last week he petitioned the appellate court to reconsider its decision to reinstate his conviction, the court refusing to toss it out. This all comes after Syed was set free in September last year after serving 2 decades in prison for the murder of Hayman Lee. Former City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby moved to vacate that conviction in light of new evidence. Stay with us as we track this breaking news. The court is now demanding a new hearing to determine whether Syed should remain free. And taking a look now at the Fox 45 quad box. Cleanup continues today after a deadly pileup involving 72 cars on a highway in Illinois. Yesterday, 6 people were killed, 37 hurt. It was caused by a dust storm that led to zero visibility for drivers.
In Oklahoma, 7 bodies were found yesterday during a search for 2 missing teens. The crime scene is just south of Tulsa, and the property belongs to a sex offender. Police say they're no longer looking for the teens, and the community is not in any immediate danger.
A sheriff's office in Virginia says 2 inmates escaped and are on the run tonight. The Prince Edward County Sheriff's Office says the pair broke out sometime over the weekend and is considered extremely dangerous.
Another former Minneapolis police officer has been convicted for his role in the death of George Floyd. Toe Thao has been found guilty of aiding and abetting manslaughter. He was one of the officers at the scene of Floyd's detainment.
A live look at the White House developing right now. The Biden administration will send 1,500 troops to the U.S.-Mexico border ahead of the expected influx of migrants once Title 42 is lifted. We are learning military personnel will be sent to the border for about 90 days. They will do administrative work like data entry and warehouse support, allowing U.S. Customs and Border Protection to focus on field work. Title 42 allows authorities to turn away many asylum seekers at the U.S. border to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The measure will be lifted May 11th. It is not clear when the troops will be deployed.
Led to an overall, pain for the consumers because they weren't able to get access to them.
More than 300 important drugs are in short supply in America. A look at some of them and what's causing the problem. And thousands of television and movie writers are on strike. The widespread impact we're already seeing.
And sunshine has gone on strike here the past couple of days. No sign of it today. Lots of clouds, temperatures in the 50s for lawn mowing. Grass still a little bit on the damp side, so may want to wait till this weekend because we have sunshine coming. I'm going to let you know if we're going to get any warmer. It's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Right now, more than 11,000 television and movie writers are striking for the first time in 15 years. Well, talks between the Writers Guild of America and the Alliance of Motion and Television Producers reached a dead end yesterday. Now, the writers say despite the profits, they're making less money and continue to work under strained conditions.
Streaming series are half the length. They're typically 10 episodes of a network series, but more writers are drawn into the system because there are more series. So you have more writers, but less work for them to do. There's a basic mismatch in the labor market.
Well, studios are pushing back against those claims, citing budget cuts across the industry. Late night shows at ABC, NBC, and Comedy Central are already being impacted. The networks will begin airing reruns. A longer walkout could disrupt shooting this summer for the fall schedule and potentially put thousands of people out of work. You know, from Adderall to Ozempic, America is experiencing shortages of critical drugs. Some experts say a range of factors are making it difficult to predict when these shortages will end. The National Desk, Dee Gatton, reports.
There were 301 active national drug shortages through this year's first quarter, according to the University of Utah Drug Information Service. That's 49% higher than the number recorded in the first 3 months of 2018. We've been talking about the attention deficit hyperactivity disorder treatment, Adderall, for months. In October of last year, the FDA announced a shortage, citing manufacturing problems. The FDA also noted a shortage of Ozempic, the diabetes drug that can also be prescribed for weight loss. Business professor at the University of the Incarnate Word, Dr. David Vequist, says a combination of factors could be contributing to short supply. He notes a surge in Adderall during the COVID-19 pandemic.
And then at the same time, the pandemic also was causing shortages, particularly worker shortages in packing and shipping for these drug companies, which led to an overall pain for the consumers because they weren't able to get access to them. So the Ozempic, wow, this is a very interesting one. So we've seen that a number of people that had either diabetes or was looking for weight loss were apparently going through telehealth visits and getting these prescriptions quicker and easier, which led to an overall, again, shortage of the drug.
Dr. Vequist also notes people learning of Ozempic on social media, and he says that increased demand too. Shortages have resulted in delays for you getting your treatment or having to go to different pharmacies. Dr. Vequist tells me he thinks we're going to start seeing people in need of these drugs asking for larger supplies at a time whenever appropriate. Reporting for the National Desk, I'm Dee Gatton.
All right, let's turn our attention to the weather right now. You're looking at live conditions from Ocean City. What a pretty picture it is right there. The sun's not out, but I like this. I like the overcast look there. Definitely not a day to jump into the water. It's probably pretty cold, and we are seeing cool and gloomy weather here today on Tuesday. But here's something to cheer you up. Juanita sent us this picture of a new bloom in her garden. Thank you, Juanita. We appreciate that. And you know what they say, April showers bring May flowers. So if you'd like to show us your weather pictures and videos, you can do that. Send them to foxbaltimore.com/chime in. Jonathan, I do like that Ocean City picture there right now. That's pretty.
If April showers, though, bring May flowers, how about May showers? What do those do? Because now we're in May.
That's a good question. We're in May.
I guess we missed our April showers. It was kind of dry for much of the month of April, so we need a little bit of rain, and I guess we're kind of going overtime now. And as Kai said, yes, we do bring some of those very dramatic shots with the extra clouds that are around, but it's kind of almost like Seattle now, more than Ocean City looking. And Eldersburg to Towson here in Baltimore, we're still under some of those low clouds. There's even some showers coming out of those, maybe even a little heavier rain, potentially right around that area near Eldersburg and Cooksville. So keep that in mind if you're headed west on 70, perhaps could encounter that, and north on 83 as well. And no, that's not a mistake there. That is a winter storm warning in portions of West Virginia and winter weather advisories in Garrett County, Maryland. You can see on the edge of the radar range that white, that is some snow in those very highest elevations of western Maryland. And there could be several inches of snow there, and potentially over a foot of snow in eastern West Virginia from this persistent weather maker. It's kind of swinging around and sitting in place and gyrating and just not going much of anywhere. It's kind of detached, if you will, from the main jet stream wind flow. So that's a highway of air that usually would shove this thing east. Not happening this time. So we're stuck with the cool weather. What you see is what you get. Showers, breezy, this kind of dotted yellow line. That's one disturbance coming on through, bringing us potential showers. And these disturbances swinging around the what we'd call in meteorology the parent low, or kind of the main storm system that gave us rain over the weekend. Now it's kind of gone east and then swung around, and it's just kind of sitting, and will do so into tomorrow as well. This is tomorrow's forecast. Notice more of that rain, but it is the storm system beginning to move east. So I think finally by Thursday and Friday, we're going to start getting rid of those storm chances, or shower chances, and then sunshine for the weekend. 55 now, Toyota Eastern Harbor Skycam. Got the clouds and those spatters of rain on the lens there as well. To make things even a little bit worse, those winds out of the west, they're at about 15 to 25, some gusts up to about 20 to 30. So it's making these temperatures in the 50s to near 60 feel even cooler than it is. A lot of clouds. Notice there, Oakland, a cold rain, temperature at 36. Where we've got that winter weather advisory in place. Now, overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, I think we hang on to the clouds. Any showers end prior to midnight. We go again with the same pattern tomorrow. That kind of self-destruct sunshine. If there is any glimpse of sun, it's going to lead to more showers again for the midday and afternoon. And I think we'll do it again into the day on Thursday. But gradually, it'll be lessening chance of rain and warming temperatures. And look, by the weekend, sunshine back. High temperatures in the 70s. Get outside. Enjoy it.
Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, making sure it's safe for communities this summer. The new testing at Back River Wastewater Treatment Plant from an environmental watchdog. But first, we take you to Bel Air to check out the lacrosse team at Harford Community College. Their mission to qualify for the national championship. It's so Baltimore, as we like to say here at Fox 45. And next weekend, Harford County will host college students as part of a National Men's Lacrosse Championship. And the team at Harford Community College will be battling for a spot this weekend. Mark Clark joined them this morning in Bel Air for their training.
On this very field, the Hartford Fighting Owls will be ready for the championship. It'll be going down right here. So, Max, tell us what we should expect. You guys are undefeated heading in. It's going to take place here. What's going to go down?
Yes, sir. We have the semifinals on Saturday. We're looking forward to that and then hoping to advance to the championship on Sunday. We're ready to protect the nest here at home.
Well, sadly, you know, guys, you can't include. I'm a natural athlete. You could have used me.
Yes, sir.
But, I mean, show me how to do this just in case I could have been a part of this magic that's about to happen.
Yeah, so we have two of our offensive guys right here, Carter Krasinski and Jack Mulligan, and then we have our goalie, Jacob Poling in cage.
Okay.
So our offensive guys are going to teach you how to shoot here for a little bit.
My first shot here. Now, I'm a natural athlete. Don't try this at home, okay? So show me what I need to do.
So I'm going to show you an example. So I like to put my top hand like the middle of my stick.
Okay.
Left hand at the bottom.
All right.
Then chin to shoulder.
Chin to shoulder.
I'm going to take a shot, Jacob. And then I like to pull down with my left arm and push with my right.
Okay.
Just follow through like that.
Oh, the old bounce. Wow. Okay, so let me try. I'm going to try it now. Be careful. Oh, we're going to the championship. Oh, okay. Having a lot of fun, but it's all going down, not this week, but next weekend. Make sure you check them out. Again, congratulations, guys. I'm Mark Clark, Fox 45 News.
Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, she's been robbed twice in 6 months. The frustration from a local business owner who says the city isn't doing enough to keep people and businesses safe. And we're following breaking news in the Adnan Syed case, why a court denied his appeal to have his murder conviction thrown out for a second time. What's the top issue for Maryland voters? And what do they think of Governor Wes Moore's performance so far? We dig into data from a new poll.
New developments in the deadly shooting at a Canton T-Mobile store this weekend. Why another business owner is saying it shows the city isn't doing enough to protect them.
How are your tax dollars being used? Breaking down a new proposal in City Hall that could help the public track millions in city spending.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
We are following the breaking news this hour. Lawyers for Adnan Syed say they will be seeking review from the Supreme Court of Maryland. You may remember last week Syed petitioned the appellate court to reconsider its decision to reinstate his conviction. That court has now refused to toss it out. Syed was set free in September after serving 2 decades in prison for the murder of Hayman Lee. Former City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby had moved to vacate that conviction in light of new evidence. Stay with Fox 45 News for continuing coverage of this case.
In a city in crisis, another shooting continues, a disturbing string of violence in Baltimore and across the state. It happened just after 12:30 in East Baltimore.
Officers responded to the scene on North Washington Street, where a man had been shot in the leg. He was taken to the hospital in stable condition. The shooting this afternoon is one of at least 3 shootings just today.
And it's not just the city that's struggling in Baltimore County. Residents are also growing concerned with public safety after 2 shooting deaths in a week. Police are still working to find suspects in both of those cases, all while a new police chief takes over the department. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Thank you for staying with us as communities across the state struggle to get a handle on violent crime. A new Goucher poll reveals reducing crime is the most important thing Marylanders are hoping the government will address.
And this comes after some lawmakers, according to some, did little to crack down on crime during the session. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker joins us live with a closer look at the results of the poll. Maxine?
Well, Kai and Mary, of those polled, 83% said that reducing crime was their #1 issue. And especially here in Baltimore City, we know crime is a problem. 89 people have already been killed this year. And a political expert we spoke with says this number right here should put politicians on high alert after a session where only small things were done to address crime. The latest Goucher poll released Tuesday pointing out exactly what's important to Marylanders.
I wasn't that surprised that crime's considered an important thing.
Of 800 Maryland residents surveyed, 83% said reducing crime is extremely or very important.
People, when they have a crime experience, it's always bad, and it's hard for people to get over a lot of them. So I think that the fact that people are concerned about the crime issue is something that I think that the governor needs to listen to a little bit on.
But are lawmakers, including Governor Westmore, listening? During the session, which ended less than a month ago, 66 people were killed in Baltimore City. And this year alone in Baltimore, 10 juveniles have been killed.
Madam Speaker, to explain my vote.
Yet Annapolis lawmakers failed to address the issue. A bill allowing kids 13 and younger to face charges went nowhere. And no action was taken on implementing tougher penalties for repeat violent offenders or making the theft of a gun a felony. The penalty was raised for those illegally possessing a gun, but that plan only focused on offenders 21 and older. Meanwhile, a bill limiting legal gun owners got the green light.
We're attacking folks that are doing the right thing, having a classroom hours, going to get the certification, and are more cognizant about the challenges if they are able to use their firearm, but being in a situation if they do have to, that it would be there versus the illegal firearms. We're doing things kind of backwards.
Some political analyst John Deedy.
This year, they nipped at a few little things on crime. They passed the legislation Ivan Bates wanted. I think that next year, this is a good bat signal for Democrats to say, we need to kind of focus on a couple things and get a little focus on what to do about this issue.
Just last week, Governor Moore was asked what he says to Republicans who say he hasn't been tough enough on crime.
I'd say for the past 8 years, we have watched a doubling of the homicide rate in the state of Maryland. So their plans weren't working. For the past 8 years, we have watched a doubling of the rate of non-fatal shootings in the state of Maryland. Whatever was being done before, that wasn't working, because we've continued to watch our communities feel less safe. So for people who say that we're not moving aggressively enough, A, I think they're not paying attention to what we're actually doing, and B, it's interesting that they're not acknowledging, and I'm asking where they were for the past 8 years.
But when asked where he fell short in the past 100 days, Moore admitted it was in addressing crime and public safety.
Specifically when it comes to issues like crime and public safety, I'm not waiting for the next legislative session in order to get the work done that needs to be done.
Now, also important number from that poll, improving public schools was also very big concern for Marylanders. 83% said it's something that they would like to see Governor Moore address. In Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Maxine. 5 months into his first term, 53% of Marylanders approve of Governor Wes Moore's performance, 26% disapprove, and 20% are undecided. Along with crime reduction, the top issues Marylanders hope to see the governor address include improving public schools, boosting the economy, and preventing childhood poverty.
Some new information tonight on the man killed in a shooting at a Canton T-Mobile store this week. The victim has been identified as 23-year-old Fabian Sanchez Gonzalez. He was working at the store when he was shot during an armed robbery on Sunday at 4:30. Yesterday, he died from his injuries. Now, this tragedy hit close to home for a Baltimore business owner who says it is hard to feel safe running her business after she has dealt with armed robbers on multiple occasions. And about that, Ashwell talked with her today and has the very latest. Alexa?
Yes, this evening the case is especially troubling to a Baltimore business owner who says her shop has been robbed at gunpoint twice in 6 months. Take a look. Jody Rossoff owns Doc Smoke Shop in Highlandtown. She's owned it for more than 40 years. Well, back in March, she says a man entered her store armed with a gun and demanded cash and merchandise. Rossoff says she fought back and ended up shooting the suspect in the leg before he was arrested. The suspect, later identified as Jerome Owens, a convicted felon with a criminal history that spans more than 25 years. Rossoff frustrated by the level of crime here in Baltimore, but also the handling of criminals. She's now closing her store, saying it's simply not safe to operate a business here in Baltimore.
This is our second armed robbery in 6 months. We have been here in the city for 44 years. For 44 years, we have paid property taxes. We have paid retail sales taxes. We have employed people. Shame on the mayor. Shame on, the judges and the prosecutors and our former state's attorney for letting this happen to Baltimore City.
Rossoff says she'll be closing her shop in 2 weeks. Reporting live in Baltimore, Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Well, here's the latest right now on Councilman Yitchi Schleifer's efforts to better track how your tax dollars are being spent. His bill calls for more transparency and accountability in the grant-making process. Right now, once the money is distributed to nonprofits, some say it's difficult to see how that money is spent.
We've seen just in the past year, hundreds of millions of dollars going out the door through the ARPA funding and other funding, and it's important to know where that money is going, what those organizations are doing. And this bill is going to help improve that. This will hopefully answer a lot of questions that people have as to where the money is going and are we getting a good return on those investments.
Let's bring in Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost, who's been digging into the issue for years. And Mackenzie, will this proposal help shed light on programs like Safe Streets?
Potentially, Kai. And as you know, we've been investigating this gun violence prevention program for quite some time, looking and asking the city how these nonprofits or community-based organizations spend the money they're given from the city. And when you talk to taxpayer advocates and experts, they say really what it comes down to is transparency must be critical. It has to be crucial. Be the biggest priority from everyone at all levels when you're talking about hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars that are given to nonprofits all over the city.
People want this program to work. They want the streets to be safer, but they just don't know where the money is going. A lot of money is being spent and a lot of lives are at risk. Taxpayers and the citizens want to know that the money that's being spent is being spent wisely.
So, Mackenzie, what type of support does the bill have, and what's Mayor Scott saying about it?
Well, we know yesterday when it was introduced, City Council President Nick Mosby, along with Council members Zeke Cohen and Danielle McCrae, put their names on this legislation as co-sponsors. And after the City Council hearing, we caught up with Council members Antonio Glover and Mark Conway, who both say that they too think that more transparency in the grant-making process is critical. So this afternoon, we sent questions to the other members of the City Council asking where they stood on this plan. So far, we're still waiting for some answers. Yesterday, Mayor Brandon Scott was asked specifically about this piece of legislation, but he did not take a firm stance.
I'm always someone that talks about transparency, but when you think about our grants, right, and the grants that the city gets, I don't think that anybody's gonna argue that, especially when we get them from the federal and the state government that has a lot of requirements, and that information is out there for the public to see. We're always going to be pushing that out there. We'll see and talk with the council member about the piece of legislation as it goes through the process.
Now, this bill has been referred to the Rules and Legislative Oversight Committee for further debate. However, it's unclear when a hearing for it will be scheduled. Live in the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Thank you, Mackenzie. That brings us to our question of the day. Should your council members support the transparency bill for those who live in the city? So far, 96% of those who responded say yes. To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com. More changes inside the mayor's office. There are reports Mayor Scott's chief of staff and spokesperson are no longer with his office. His office has refused to speak with us about the changes. Dharuv Vignaraja addressed the news this morning.
When you have, again, one person shifting here and there, that's one thing. But to have so many major turnovers at the highest level, this is your cabinet. This is your leadership within City Hall. When those people are departing with such frequency, it just has to raise questions. And you want to see the mayor say, this is what's happening. One or two people moving to a great new job in another city, that's one thing. But for there to be so much turnover with such regularity, with no answers, I think that makes people worry.
There has been high turnover in the mayor's office. Mayor Scott's last chief of staff left last fall. His communications director was asked to leave in January.
The first candidate running for Maryland's soon-to-be vacant Senate seat launches his campaign. Montgomery County Council member Will Jawando releasing this campaign ad on Twitter today. In the ad, Jawando focuses on the nation's political divide and promises to fight inequality across the country. It comes just a day after longtime Senator Ben Cardin announced he will not be seeking re-election.
A local cab company paid to get kids to class is accused of driving off with more than $500,000 in taxpayer money. The latest on the controversy over misused funds.
Water testing resumes for the Back River. What it means for the water treatment plant and the safety of water activities in the area this summer.
Republicans and Democrats clashing again, this time over the death penalty. I'm Scott Thuman in Washington with a look at the fight that is likely to make its way to the Supreme Court.
And some spot showers around this afternoon and this evening. Don't be surprised you may have to turn on your wipers for a couple of swipes with temperatures falling through the cool 50s in the commuter forecast. I'll let you know when temperatures are going to be in the sunny 70s again. And yes, that's no fooling. I'm going to let you know if it comes in time for your weekend plans, too, on my Weather Authority forecast.
Another political fight may be headed for the Supreme Court. There's long been intense national debate over capital punishment, but it is getting renewed attention with state leaders and lawmakers rewriting the rules. Chief political correspondent Scott Thuman has the latest from Washington.
Another state signature that could very well set up a Supreme Court fight, this time over the death penalty. In this latest case, Republican Governor Ron DeSantis making it a capital crime in Florida to rape a child under the age of 12, giving prosecutors the option to pursue the harshest possible sentence.
We think that the worst of the worst crimes deserve the worst of the worst punishment.
Even though Florida's bipartisan law is currently unconstitutional since the Supreme Court bars states from executing child sex predators unless murder's involved, Republican lawmakers especially taking increasingly more aggressive positions. Former President Trump has called for execution of drug dealers. Idaho's governor approved the firing squad as an alternative to lethal injection. And in Iowa, Republicans want to reverse an almost 60-year ban of the death penalty. For DeSantis, there's a political side too, trying to elevate his tough-on-crime credentials and his standing with Republicans who polling shows support capital punishment by a 2-to-1 margin over Democrats. And DeSantis contrasting himself against leaders like California's Gavin Newsom, who has given judges more discretion in sentencing child sex cases and not automatically register someone as a sex offender. And numerous other Democrats doing what they can to roll back capital punishment laws.
It's extremely expensive. Tens of millions of dollars more spent prosecuting these cases.
Critics contend executions don't actually deter criminals.
This is a fundamental statement of morality, of what is right and what is wrong.
They further argue a child sex abuse victim may be less willing to go to police if they know the offender could be put to death. In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
That brings us to our national question of the day. Do you think convicted sex offenders should face the death penalty? To make your voice heard, scan the QR code on your screen right now.
A Senate hearing today calling into question the ethics standards of the U.S. Supreme Court. Supreme Court Justices John Roberts, Neil Gorsuch, and Clarence Thomas's ethics have all come under scrutiny in recent weeks. Multiple reports show they failed to disclose financial dealings that some argue they should have disclosed. And while senators spoke out about the financial concerns, any attempt at judicial reform will be a tall task.
The Supreme Court should step up and fix this themselves. For years, they've refused. And because the court will not act, Congress must.
This assault on Justice Thomas is well beyond ethics. It is about trying to delegitimize a conservative court that was appointed through the traditional process.
The Supreme Court is not on board with such broad oversight. All 9 justices on the bench, in a rare joint statement, pushed back against an enforceable ethics code. All right, Jonathan is back. We have another dreary day out there.
Here we go.
How about that?
Yeah. We promised it was going to be several days of this. And,
yes, we're buckling in.
I guess you could look at it as half full or half empty. Half full is that we're halfway to getting out of it. Half empty is, we're going to have another couple of days that we have to deal with clouds and gloomy showers. So HD radar showing us some of these at Cockeysville down to Towson here in Baltimore. As you head to Severn and Severna Park, Annapolis, there's some spot showers and sprinkles. Nothing that's going to really, I guess, cancel any plans. I know my kids have their baseball practices this afternoon, and those haven't been canceled, and probably a lot of this stuff is going to still go on. But you have to be prepared for the weather here. There are going to be some kind of drizzles and sprinkles around, and you'll also have the cool temperatures and some breezy conditions as well. So jackets and potentially a rain slicker are going to be needed here, but barely even enough to wet the ground in most cases. Winter weather advisories, how about that, though? Out toward Garrett County, Maryland, and then there's a winter storm warning in eastern high elevation West Virginia. And the reason that's kind of interesting is because we're in May now. So, yeah, Mother Nature, come on, get with it. But unfortunately for us, no, it's not going to mean snow, but it is going to mean the same cool, dreary, showery, blustery pattern coming over the next several days as this storm system that's kind of spinning around off to our north and west. And as we go into our surface weather feature map, you'll see it here, that big L spinning around to our north. As this thing just kind of meanders about, we'll see that same pattern hanging on, showers, breezy. Notice this dotted yellow line as well. These are disturbances kind of spinning around this thing that helps to accentuate the risk of showers. And got one of those coming through today, probably another one for tomorrow. Notice the L here. It's just not moving very much until it finally dissipates and starts shoving off the coast by Thursday, and that's going to start alleviating the chance of showers gradually. 54 degrees with clouds now. You can see some of the shafts of rain in the distance. Winds out of the west at 10. The Toyota East Utah Harbor Skycam, very kind of dark look at things here, almost like Seattle. Winds out of the west and southwest right now at about 10. There are some gusts still up to about 20, so keep in mind it is chilly. And if you thought it was cold here, look at that, a cold rain and even some snowflakes mixed in out toward Oakland. Deep Creek Lake, 36 right now. Around here, again, an early shower. Otherwise, I think the clouds hang tough. Temperatures in the 40s overnight into early tomorrow morning. By noon tomorrow, notice the showers again. High temperatures not getting out of the 50s, just like today. And it looks like, guess what? Thursday, more of the same, as we could start with a peak of sunshine, and by afternoon, we're seeing temperatures in the likely low 60s with some spot showers. But then how about that? Friday, just an outside chance of a sprinkle, high 68, and there you go. We break into the 70s in sun just in time for our weekend.
Jonathan, thank you. Allegations that money meant to get kids to school was being misused. Coming up, city schools respond to a state audit.
Pilots are putting pressure on American Airlines. A look at what they want and the likelihood of a strike as summer travel season is heating up.
Well, just before a busy travel season, one of the largest airlines unions is going on strike. National correspondent Dee Gatton has the latest on what it could mean for your summer plans.
From American to Southwest, unions are ramping up pressure on the airlines to approve new contracts with substantial pay raises. This after Delta pilots recently approved a new contract with pay hikes and other improvements. At American Airlines, the Allied Pilots Association said Monday more than 96% of its 15,000 members voted. Of that, 99% favored authorizing the strike. These demonstrations, union members hope, will send the message they're ready to strike if they don't reach an agreement over their current contracts. Since 2019, the union and airline have been negotiating on a new contract.
The quality of life issue is number one. The fact that there is a pilot and personnel shortage, they're constantly being asked to fly extra. Number two, pay and benefits. Delta Airlines just received a hefty raise. American wants a raise on par with that. And third, we can't forget that 10, 15 years ago, several of these airlines went bankrupt. I think they kind of want some sort of restitution here and to get back to where the positions they lost 10 to 15 years ago.
And that was former Air Force pilot and professor of management at Cedarville University, Dr. Daryl Smith. This all comes as summer travel season is fast approaching. An airline spokesperson said American is confident that it can reach an agreement with the union quickly.
Throwing support behind the new police chief. We're hearing from Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski as officers continue to search for multiple murder suspects. Hundreds of thousands of dollars meant to get kids to school may have been used for something else. The state IG report and the school system's response. Baltimore City school officials responding to the school system's taxi cab controversy uncovered in a recent Maryland Inspector General report.
That report claims a local cab company that was paid to take students to and from school may have driven off with more than $500,000 of taxpayer money.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor joins us live from school headquarters with the very latest on this. Rebecca.
Well, according to the school system, they are now aware of the issue and they have put safeguards in place to prevent something like this from happening again. However, it's still unclear how something like this happened in the first place. Take a look. The IG report claims from the 2018 to 2019 school year and the 2021 to 2022 school year, there were about 1,100 students and 3,900 cases when the student had not been in school, but the taxi company claimed that they were taken there. In total, racking up nearly $632,000 worth of controversial charges, a significant amount of money. Now, in response to the findings, the school system sent Fox 45 News a statement reading in part, quote, the discrepancies identified by the OIGE were primarily concentrated in the earlier years of the review period and have been mitigated by city schools' efforts to increase oversight over transportation vendors in recent years. Now, I've since followed up this afternoon asking exactly what new oversight measures have been put in place, and still, how was something like this able to go on for so long? But as of News 7 tonight, have not heard back. Reporting live outside of school headquarters, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. Well, a new report says city officials have once again failed to properly monitor the city's teleworking employees. According to the Baltimore City Inspector General, for 8 months last year, an employee with the city was also working with city schools. That's against city policy. And according to the IG's investigation, the city wasn't aware of the dual role. That employee resigned from the city in October of last year, but not before making a combined $104,000. 2 years ago, the IG warned the city to take a hard look at its work from home policy to avoid incidents like this.
We're beginning to find this as a pattern in the city that we, the Office of the Inspector General, is sometimes told that things have been corrected when in reality they haven't. So we're actually in the process right now of reviewing a lot of our prior cases and determining if indeed what they told us is correct. And we will be calling out anybody that gave us false information.
Before this incident, the IG found a DPW engineer working a second job during the same hours he was working for DPW. For this latest report, the IG once again asking the city to address the loophole.
With warmer weather on the horizon, some Marylanders are likely gearing up to head out on the water for some boating and fishing. And in eastern Baltimore County, an environmental group has resumed independent water testing along Back River. Fox 45's Amy Simpson explains why.
For another season, the Back River Restoration Committee says it's keeping eyes on what's happening in the waters of Back River. The environmental group says this year, in addition to its weekly water testing with Blue Water Baltimore, it's testing 6 more spots each month and sending those samples to a private lab.
It just gives additional insight. It doesn't hurt to see what's going on in the river in different areas because we're testing in locations that the county and the state are not testing. So it just gives a broader picture of what's happening all throughout the river.
The nonprofit doing sampling with limited funds, saying it's always looking for people to support their mission.
We have an interest in the river. We want to know what's going on. And it helps put people's minds at ease when they see additional testing that's not government funded.
This time last year, the Back River Restoration Committee was conducting routine water sampling as operations at the nearby Back River wastewater treatment plant were under state control, and the plant was working to get back into compliance. Now, a year later, this environmental watchdog group says it's still vital for the community to keep advocating for the health of Back River.
We can't just sit back and hope that something happens. We really have to get out there and fight for it.
And of the most recent samples posted just yesterday, this spot along Muddy Gut was the only location at this point with elevated levels of E. coli. Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
In a city in crisis, 2 people are shot within 4 hours last night, both in northwest Baltimore. The first shooting happened around 1 this morning when police say a 23-year-old man was shot on Reisterstown Road. Just before 4 a.m., a 33-year-old was shot on Force Road. Both victims are expected to survive. Anyone with information should contact Baltimore police. According to Baltimore police, 89 people have been killed in the city this year. That's compared to 113 this time last year. There have also been 194 people who've been shot and survived. Now, that number was already up to 225 at this time last year.
The Maryland Comptroller's Office releasing a new way to track how much money has been paid out in gun trace task force settlements. The tracker updates any new settlements in real time. As of now, the city has paid out more than $22 million. According to the tracker, 3 officers, Wayne Jenkins, Ryan Gwynn, and Keith Gladstone, were responsible for about $11 million worth of those settlements.
Making headlines right now, a guilty plea tonight in the shooting death of an MTA bus driver back in 2021. Police say 49-year-old Frankie Duckett was shot and killed in January of 2021 in East Baltimore. During the trial, prosecutors showed video of the suspect, Marquise Poteet, firing through the window of the bus. The 35-year-old received life in prison with all but 60 years suspended. Duckett was a husband and father of 4. Fox 45 News sat down with his family exclusively in 2021 after he was killed.
I lost someone that's dear to my heart, and I can't do anything about it, so I can't fix it. That's what I like to do. I like to fix it. I can't fix this. I can't bring him back.
The family told us it appears the two had an argument over a mask before the shooting. Poteet was arrested in South Carolina in 2021 following a months-long manhunt.
I'm always concerned when there's any type of violence in Baltimore County, first of all. I'm concerned about the fact that there's so many guns out there and that people are willing to use them.
The new Baltimore County Police Chief says he's working to keep residents safe as officers continue to investigate 2 open murder cases. Fox 45's Patrice Sanders spoke with County Executive Johnny Olszewski about public safety.
New Baltimore County Police Chief Robert McCullough responded to Baltimore County residents who say they moved into the county to be safe, but with recent crime, they're now feeling concerned.
As a parent, I clearly understand what they're saying, but I also would reassure them as their chief is that we're doing everything to make Baltimore County a safe place to live and to work and for our children to go to school.
Those concerns come on the heels of the second shooting deaths in Baltimore County in a week. We spoke with Baltimore County Executive Johnny Olszewski this morning about his confidence in turning things around.
He has our full support. And just like the chief assured your station, I would just echo that as a parent, as county executive, I'm working very closely with Chief McCullough to do all that we can to make sure Baltimore County remains the incredibly safe place that it is. These recent incidents, every incident is tragic. But, you know, if you take a close look at the data, it is clear that Baltimore County remains one of the most safe jurisdictions in the region, safer than most of our peer jurisdictions across the country. Last year, we saw a nearly 40% reduction in homicides.
He goes on to say the 2024 budget, which still needs to be approved by the county council, includes even more funding for law enforcement, including some of the highest starting salaries in the region and take-home police cars. Patrice Sanders, Fox 45 News.
You can watch Vincent Hill's entire interview with the Baltimore County Police Chief right now. Use your phone's camera to scan the QR code. That will take you to our website, or go directly to our website, foxbaltimore.com. A report is out today from a transportation research group, and it's putting a price tag on Maryland's congested roadways. According to a transportation research nonprofit, the cost of delays, wasted fuel, and emissions in traffic cost a total of $5.8 billion last year. That's thousands of dollars per driver.
In the Baltimore urban area, TRIP estimates that traffic congestion costs the average motorist to spend an additional 59 hours stuck in traffic annually and burning an additional 22 gallons of fuel. And the impact or the cost of that loss of time and fuel is $1,371.
Well, the report also breaks down the most congested portions of Maryland's highways, and that tends to be the Capitol Beltway in the Washington area and, of course, 695 in the Baltimore area.
Multiple arrests made yesterday in cases where suspects were pretending to be law enforcement agents. In Pasadena, officers responded to a report of a woman asking a gas station employee for drugs. Officers found a woman in the car near the gas station who claimed to be an undercover detective. She